Patrick and I just wrapped up a fantastic conversation with Josh Galindo. Josh has been absolutely killing it out in Las Vegas, building his flipping business, his rental portfolio business, his brokerage business. Not only that, but he's gotten to a point in his career where he can start working on his charity, really giving back to people. You guys have to tune in because this is not all about the money. It's all about living life and building the life that is important to you so you can do the things that you want to do with what matters most, time. So you guys do not want to miss this one. It's going to be a great episode. Stay tuned.
How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to the Real FI podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McGrath, with my co-host, James Rippion, rocking the hat today. How's it going, James?
Decide, commit, take action, guys. It's going well today. I think we're going to have a great episode. We got our friend Josh Galindo on with us today, and he's got a wealth of knowledge behind him, wealth of experience, and he's been building something incredible for the past couple of years, and we're going to break it down with him today. So without any more hesitation, let's just get into it. Josh, why don't you just introduce yourself to our guests and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going on?
Awesome. Thank you for having me. My name is Josh Galindo. I am out here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a real estate broker for a brokerage called Galindo Group Real Estate. I've been licensed since 2005. Kind of grew up in the real estate space. My mom was an escrow officer, raised my sister and I alone. So dad wasn't there, single mom off of an escrow officer's salary. And so I've kind of been around it my whole life. I got into real estate and started flipping homes initially, and then built a brokerage around that. And from the brokerage, I've had other companies that we've branched off and created, but they're all real estate related. I love talking about real estate. I'm married. I got 4 kids, 9, 7, 5, and 3. So they're all young and little and cute. And as young and little and cute as they are, they're equally difficult and stressful and painful. And but yeah, let's just roll. Whatever you want to ask or talk about, I'm an open book.
For sure. Let's get started back in 2005 when you got started. And you had mentioned that you got into flipping as a means of kind of building everything that you have today. So let's talk about those first couple of years and, what got you into flipping and what that was like going through flipping at that period of time, because, 2005, that was an interesting time in the market for sure. And then within a couple of years, you're living through some pretty crazy stuff. So let's talk about that.
You're right. And I'll clarify the 2005. So I got licensed 2005, and actually I got brought in by a family friend that was a commercial guy out here. So their game was assembling land. So I learned how to take a piece of real estate and add value, and in exchange of adding the value, time, energy, and effort, I was rewarded in the form of profit. So I believe I was blessed to learn how to take a piece of real estate and all the way to its highest and best use, versus a lot of people get into real estate and they learn how to sell real estate. And it's important to communicate to listeners that there's 2 different types of real estate. I can be an unbelievably successful real estate agent that sells real estate. Now, those guys don't necessarily understand the investing side of real estate. And then you could be an incredibly successful real estate guy that doesn't really care to sell real estate and just understands how to maximize real estate and be rewarded in the form of profit. So I started out in the commercial space and learned that. And then to your point, that was 2005, 6, and 7. Was probably making more money than I should have. Thought I was living the greatest life. I was young in my early 20s. And then to your point, market corrects. 2007, 8 hits, and obviously I got wiped off the face of the earth in the real estate world. And then I had to figure out how to reinvent myself, because the guys that I was with, they could just clam up, wait for things to get better, and then begin executing. Obviously, I didn't have a bankroll like that because I just started. So I'm like, what sector of real estate was moving and conducting business? And I found that it was housing, because I say housing, in a recession, it goes, the consumer gets weak first. Once the consumer gets weak and can't pay their mortgage, then housing suffers. And then once housing suffers, then the commercial guys suffer, because the land guys, there's obviously buildings and business type commercial, but the land guys then suffer because the home builders can't buy any dirt from them and have it penciled because housing's so cheap. So anyway, while those guys were waiting, I go, what can I go buy? And long story short, I basically fell asleep at a buddy's house, woke up, walked outside to my car, saw a guy taking a picture of a house and said, what are you doing? And he goes, this house is going to auction. And I'll go, really? Well, you know, and as funny as this is to even say today, I'm like, what does that mean? And he goes, it's being foreclosed on, and I'm the driver. I take pictures of the homes. So he gives me his card. I go down to the auction, and boy, it was buzzing with life. It was a beautiful thing to see in a time of such distress in the real estate space, and just wealthy guys buying 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 houses a day, houses that I thought were worth $500,000 selling for 320, 280. I mean, you could throw a dart in the air at this time, let it land anywhere in Vegas, and you could buy that property at the auction and make money. I mean, it was fishing with dynamite. So that got me excited. And I went and put together a little partnership with a buddy of mine that, you know, put in like 40 grand. Another guy put in 70, and I put in my last like 30,000. And we stumbled down there and bought a house and self-performed all the work because we didn't understand any other way to do it. Anything that I said a blind monkey couldn't do, I hired out, and listed the house and made like 30,000. And I was like, holy shit, we could make a business out of this. Well, those guys actually weren't interested. So that was the only time I did it with them. But I was able to go and find some investors, and then I got started. So yeah, it was, now that was kind of a fast forward story. Back to your question. It was a struggle from 2007, you know, 8, 9, 10. And then in 2010, I kind of caught my steam and found an investor where I could get into the volume space. And that was when things got fun, and I felt actually, you know, safe and protected again. Like I could, you know, go and make a living for myself. So.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting, especially going through that time when, you know, the auctions were really popular. I know right now, at least in the part of the country where I'm at, the auctions, you know, you're not really finding anything there. At least people haven't been in the last, you know, 5, 6 years without there being a lot of foreclosures. Now we might be headed that way here in the next couple of years. We might not. It really depends. But a lot of I really enjoy that story because that's where a lot of us that are investing now are looking back on. It's that glory time that we've been riding all the way up until this last, let's just say, year, you know, of buying those property. You could almost buy anything and turn it into a big profit. But now here we are in this current situation, the people that are listening to the podcast now and wondering, hey, can I still flip a house? Is it still a good time to flip a house? So what are you doing right now in this current situation, having that decade plus of knowledge and experience flipping houses, to drop on the people out there thinking about getting into that?
Well, great question. So if you're going to here's the upside to being a volume flipper is, in order to do volume, you've got to operate on relatively thin margins. So there's times when I would go into a house saying, my goal is to make 17,500. That was what I identified as my target profit. So if you are a volume flipper, then you will operate on a relatively thin margin. 17.5 may not sound like it's thin, but it actually is. You get one $5,000 mistake, now you're at 12.5. You have one $5,000 price reduction, now you're under 10. You know, and then the buyer asks for closing costs, and it's a break even. So that is a razor thin margin. So if you're willing to go and enter into that space, what it does, it makes you a precision flipper. And that's what I actually reference myself as. When you can operate on thin margins and be successful, then you're very, very, very precise. These guys that sit back and wait for the $40,000, $50,000 swing, what that is doing is that's almost enabling them to be okay with making mistakes, because you've got such a large profit margin. You can make mistakes and still come out okay. And then 2, you don't do very many, so you never become an extreme expert. So for me, having been a volume flipper, you know, doing at the lowest point of my career 30 homes in a year, and at the peak of my career was 123, and then I hung out and rounded into the hundreds for a while. It required me to be very conscious and keen to all of the market conditions and what kind of homes to buy. So you're not wrong in the sense that we had a good swing there. But when you're holding 40 to 45 homes at any one time, you can't bank on a healthy market. You've got to really stick to your fundamentals. And that's what I've done. And that's what I did. So no, none of my business was based. Now, I knew how to take advantage of a swing in the last few years, an upswing. But no, my business was real calculated, really intentional, and not based off of market conditions. And I think it's important to say that because that's how you get good. And then what am I doing today? I can flip in any market because of those fundamentals I operate under. Now, I'm not immune to these market conditions. Some guys, for perspective, I got to give perspective to understand what I'm saying. Some guys in Vegas lost 4, 5, 6, 700 million bucks in the last 7 months. I was blessed enough to only lose 130. But you just get back on the saddle and keep rolling. I got the experience, the bankroll, and to be able to just get back on. And my first flip I did in January, we made 60,000 on it. It was one of those unique deals that are rare, and we're right back in the game. So something that I just really pay attention to is now it's funny. I don't know how your guys' history. I'm assuming you've got some time under your belts, but did any of us ever really even pay attention to what the Fed did with the interest rates? I personally never did. I always just watched my inventory levels off the MLS and use that as my indicator. Is there getting a glut of supply? And if there was, and I was a little more aggressive on my pricing or a little bit more flexible on selling some properties. And then if it went down, then I was a little bit tougher. And you guys get that, the supply and demand play. But boy, if I understood interest rates like I understand how important interest rates are today, we'd all be sitting a lot better. We would have jumped on all of the pre-COVID pricing while on the day that the Fed dropped the rate to basically zero. We could have bought a bunch at that point. And then we would have saw when the Fed started raising interest rates, that could have been a time to sell and then get all your cash back. So now that I've been through a cycle, man, I'd be really, really dangerous and potent when it comes to the next cycle. I'd be able to really execute. So, but yeah, we're still buying. I'm flipping homes. But I'm not buying under volume basis right now. I've got 6. I've done 8. I've got 8 in the pipeline this year, but I'm only holding 6 right now. So I've closed a few is my point. But I always just stay in the game, and you'll always be able to find a flip in any market. And if anybody questions me that, I just ask them, does grandma smoke? Does she smoke in the house? Does grandma have a cat? Does she have 4 cats? Did Junior inherit a house and pick up a drinking problem? There's always a house in America getting destroyed, creating an opportunity for us to, capitalize on it and improve it and then earn a profit in exchange.
Well, real estate's always depreciating. That's the nature of the industry for sure. So there's going to be improvements needed, and there's always going to be distressed sellers for one reason or another.
Always.
So if it's not the house itself, it's always going to be the seller's circumstance too. So I agree with you. I think every market is a good market to invest, but sometimes you just have to pivot. And that saying does not mean the same thing in every market. You might have to find a different strategy to work. Step on the gas or let off. Maybe just pivot your strategy a little bit. But I'm curious, flipping, 30 to 120 homes per year, that's a huge amount of volume. Like that's more than I can really even think of myself doing in a lifetime. Like 120 house flips, that just seems like a lot. You're doing that, at your peak in 1 year period of time. How do you build up to that? What systems do you put in place? What logically is going in to your business to make it so that you can have that volume-based flipping business and do it successfully?
So what built up to that? So I got asked this question on another podcast this the other day, and I actually hadn't really thought about it, but circumstances forced me to do it. So obviously there's nothing more motivating than either, having your livelihood taken from you, or or execute, and I guess what that means is what triggered that for me. I like to give honest answers. I can give bullshit answers and tell you, I have all these perfect systems and procedures, but I didn't. Basically, what had happened is I'd ran into a guy that had an $8 million line of credit who was my new investor. And at the time, there wasn't all these lending homes or Kiavi. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those, but I call them the Uber of hard money lending. It was, back in the day, like to get a guy to give you that kind of money, that was a big, big deal. And he was real clear with me. He gave me 2 rules. He said, spend the money. And then when I would spend the money, he would go, if you put me in harm's way, you put yourself in harm's way. So basically he put me in a hard spot, in between a hard spot and a rock. And I was like, I have to deploy this capital or he's going to take it from me. And if I make a mistake, then he's going to punish me for it. So I was like, and I didn't have any other option. So I was forced to figure it out. And how did I figure it out? It was grit, it was tenacity, it was discipline. I worked 7 days a week. And honestly, I grabbed my brother-in-law who was parking cars at the M Resort and his buddy who was flipping Jeeps at the time. And I said, are you guys good at taking direction? And they're like, yeah. I go, you do exactly what I say when I say to do it at any time of the day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and we're all going to make a shitload of money. And they did. They listened to me, and we were able to go. And the other thing was, it was under a necessity component. Is my deal with that investor was, and I think this is great for any listener out there, was 75-25. So they got 75% of the action. I only got 25%. And then I had to pay everybody in my 25%. So instead of bitching and complaining to my investor that I was so grateful to have gotten and saying I need a bigger split, I just looked at my 2 guys and said, we're going to go make more money. If I want my 25% to represent more money, I just have to do more volume. So we reverse engineered it. I said, well, what do we want to make? And I said, I want to make $700,000. So I was like, okay, well, we've got to do 120. I took my share based on the average purchase price, based on the average profit, based on how much capital we have. And I computed that we've got to do 100 flips. And coincidentally, we were so badass, we did 123 and we hit our goals and some. And my investor was happy. And then because I was such a producer, I was able to go back to that investor and go, all right, bro, I've earned it. I proved it to you. But next year I want 30 and I want a moving scale. The more money I make, the more percentage I get. But how did I do it? Here's the other thing is I built tons of relationships with the whole city. I was the real estate agent on every buy. I was the designer. I coordinated the construction, and then I was the real estate on every sell. So the impact that I had on the market going from 30 homes to 123 was like shocking to Las Vegas. They were like, who is this guy? And then all of a sudden I had eyeballs, and I was aware of that. And when I had eyeballs, it was like, I'm the new guy in town and send me your deals. So I had, my brother-in-law was in charge of acquisitions. So we were always looking on the MLS nonstop, and he loved to stay up late and I loved to get up early. So we were scrubbing the MLS 24 hours a day, and we were buying properties off the MLS, off of wholesalers, the sheriff's sale. And at that time, there was some sales that could be had at the trustee sale. So we just made it happen. I think, even if I gave you the exact blueprint, I don't think that the user would execute it precisely. It's more important for me to say, I just made it happen. And reverse engineer so from that year on, I learned that I could predict my income every single year just based on how hard I wanted to work. And so even to this day, from 2013 is when I last started doing that. To this day, at the end of December, I sit down and I type in a box at the top how much I want to make that year, and then it computes how many deals I have to flip, and then I go to work.
I really appreciate that. And for everyone out there listening, I mean, it just comes down to putting in the work and going out there and making it happen. Like there's no magic secret formula to go out there and do any of this. I think the only secret that we've consistently got from everyone that we've interviewed and everyone that I've spoke with is that it just takes hard work. That's the whole point of this decide, commit, take action part. It doesn't say, read a bunch of books. It doesn't say like, you have to do X, Y, and Z. It just says, just commit to it and go do it. Like you're
Yeah.
going to figure it out. You're going to become the expert by just taking the action and going and doing it out of necessity, out of putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. You're going to get that fight or flight, and you're going to know if you can push through or if you can give up and get out. You know what I mean? And it's the people that have the mental capacity to be able to push through or to be able to pivot and be solution oriented are the ones that come out and really be successful, because at the end of the day, real estate is all about solving problems.
Yep.
A problem of how much money that you want to earn, a problem of spending your investor's money, and then not having the underground Vegas mob come after you for $8 million. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So I
You know,
mean, go
let
ahead.
me add to that. So, you're not, everything you just said was perfect. I mean, if you want the blueprint, it's what you just said. But something that I've actually tweaked recently on how I sell my message is I summarized a lot of it with work hard, work hard, work hard. Well, work hard, what does that mean? Because you can look at your landscaper, you can look at your roofer, you can look at a teacher, you can look at any other industries, and you ask them, does this person work hard? And you would look at them and go, yeah, they do. Work hard means getting educated on what you're working on, becoming the best at it, and then the missing piece there is discipline. Discipline is the key to all of it. Now that's a little bit easier to define, and what that means is doing what has to be done even if you don't want to do it. And that's the difference between hard work. That is what I believe defines hard work. Is, how many times I didn't want to do something, but I got up and did it. And that's what separates me from the average person. And to me, that is the representation of hard work. So I think that is extremely important for the listeners out there. It's discipline. You got to wake up every day, and it's not this obnoxious wake up at 3 a.m. and do a cold plunge. You got to wake up at 6 a.m. and be willing to work until 7. And then if you get that random ass call at 9 p.m. that your house is being broken into and your appliances are being stolen and your air conditioner is being jacked, you don't get the luxury of going, fuck it, I'll just wake up and handle that in the morning. No, you put back on your clothes, you kiss your kids, you kiss your wife, you get in the car, you grab your partner, and you drive down there. I mean, I got a story to show you about tenacity that just clicked after just saying that. I had a house I was supposed to close the next day. The agent calls me and goes, hey man, I can't get in to do the walkthrough. I'm sitting in the backyard, probably having a glass of wine with my wife around the fire pit. And I'm like, that's really weird that he can't get in. And I could have just ignored it and moved on, but I'm like, I'm not going to let this thing, I'm not going to risk not having it closed. So I get in the car, I drive to the house. I walk in the house. I've never been jacked so bad in my life. These guys took my carpet. They took my faucets. They took my cabinet hardware. They took my chandeliers. They took every single thing that could be unscrewed or removed. And I was like, oh my gosh. And this was a relatively large flip at the time. So I had no choice but to fix it. I swear to you, I rebuilt this house by 11 a.m. the next morning. I got my contractor there at 5 a.m. I said, hey, I'll pay you extra. We thankfully Lamps Plus had a display that we were able to convince the store manager to give us to replace the chandelier. We put all the cabinet hardware back on. We replaced the carpet. We cleaned it. And I met the buyer there at 11 a.m. And because I'm an honest guy, I was like, hey, I want to let you know what happened. But I just it was so back to normal. When I told him the crazy story, he didn't even blink. I don't even know if he believed me. But man, that is the difference between hard work or discipline, doing something you don't want to do, but still doing it, and everybody else.
Well, as you were telling that story, I'm walking through like, what would I have done? And I'm sure a lot of the people listening are thinking the same thing. And my first reaction is, well, I got to go bitch and moan to the insurance company, try to file a claim. That's going to take months. The deal's falling through. Now I got to do all this work after I get that settled. And you're kind of opening my eyes to, what a more appropriate response should be is do the work, get it to where it needed to be, and close and move on. And
Thankfully, oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Thankfully, I feel like I possess this unbelievable level of optimism where I believe whatever the task is in front of me can be accomplished up until the very moment that it like physically, realistically cannot be. Like I'm the guy that's like, we will. So to your point, some guys would go, we got to call the agent. Hey man, the house got broken into. Can you talk to your buyer? I was like, I made a commitment in that moment with my team. I said, we will rebuild this house by their 11 a.m. walkthrough tomorrow. And I believed in my core that I would accomplish that up until 10:59 when I looked around and either had accomplished it or I failed. But up till 10:59, I was optimistic and believed that I could do it. And I apply that mindset to everything. Just like I was showing you the podcast, we're still working on this thing. I thought it was cool to show you the room, but this thing's a mess right now. But I believe that it will be successful until it's not. And 99% of the time, the universe blesses us with success. You know what I'm saying? But people only remember the times that it doesn't, and then they refuse to try because they remember that one time they failed. Man, if you just memorize how many times we win, like we win every day we wake up. We win every day. We're winning right now. Our Wi-Fi's are working so we can learn about each other and exchange information. But that one time that our Wi-Fi doesn't work, that everybody remembers that.
So it's so true that the people focus on the negative stuff way more than the negative headlines, all of that stuff. Someone, it's the cliche thing. You put a post out there that says you started a business and like two people, like it. But you say you got fired from your job and there's 1,000 comments and everyone is, it's the haters are out there, man, in full swing, and it's tough because people are not willing to give people a pat on the back when they are successful. So I think that's sometimes why it is that way. But I feel the same exact way that you do about like just you just have to figure it out. Like you just got to, and that's really what separates the people that are successful from the ones that aren't. In that situation, you were like, look, I got to take care of this. I have to make it happen. And I think that's when I've found out when I put myself or been in a situation like that, that's when I've really found out what I was made of. And those situations have only helped. It's like double or tripled what my confidence level is afterwards.
Yeah.
Because you can either let the stress and anxiety like overwhelm you, or you can just like, boom. All right, I've been able to piece all of this together over time. Let's just see if we can figure it out right now. And like, I love that aspect.
You could become like superhuman in the eyes of other people with what you just described there. One of the tricks that I say to myself when I am under the most amount of pressure or stress, instead of getting close to that breaking point, I don't even acknowledge that there is a breaking point, but I know that I'm feeling it. This is a trick that I use in my brain. I literally say to myself, bring it on, motherfucker. I got more. Give me more. Give me more. I can take on more. And I'm almost fooling my brain that what I have on my plate is so minuscule that I'm capable of taking on more. And I just turn into like a fight. And I'm going to win it under all circumstances. There was something else that you said that I wanted to capitalize on. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. So getting comfortable, being uncomfortable will push you out of the old you and into the new you. And then you said something else that I like to actually preach to my people is every time you grow out of that skin, you create a track record. So each time you've grown out of that skin, next time you hit a bigger mountain than the mountain before, and instead of being insecure or nervous that you're not going to be able to blow through it, you can literally look behind you and see the last 10 versions of yourself as proof that you can get through it. And that's why I'm such a believer. One of my statements is accomplishment equals confidence. The more you accomplish, the more confident you get. People are looking at me going, how do you accomplish all the things that you do today? I'm like, because I started when my tasks were this big. and then they got this big, and then they got this big, and now they're bigger. I think this whole game, I'm glad that we're kind of going this direction a little bit, which I'm open to any direction, so feel free. I think this whole game is mindset. If you want to learn how to flip a house, it's $100,000 house. You buy it at 70% of the ARV, after repair value. Then you minus out your repairs, and that's what you got to buy it for. Now everybody on the planet knows how to flip a home. It's the mindset that's going to separate them from actually taking that information and going and executing it. That's the difference.
So that's something I want to kind of cue in on, is the mindset. Not, my father would always tell me, work smart, not hard. And we had the conversation about working with discipline, but I think when you're looking, like, for example, someone who's in a trade and they're working that job, and they're obviously working really hard. It's a hard job. They're doing a lot of hours and they're doing difficult work. They're working hard. But what I'm receiving from you is the capacity to work smart. You've done all these flips. You put in these systems in place to make that happen. You've built this brokerage, and I kind of want to lead into the brokerage that you've built and how you were able to create that business, because what you've done at that point is you didn't just stick with being an agent on the retail side. That's working hard. That's working day to day, trying to earn a commission. You found a way to work smart, and that is in the same business, but leveraging systems and putting people together to build something that's a lot bigger than just being a single agent. So, why don't you talk to us a little bit about your brokerage business, what you got going on there and how you kind of built it to be what it is today?
So the brokerage business, all of these businesses, because that's, I call it the hungry hippo. That hippo, it's whoever can hit the hippo the fastest, right? Whether there's a marble under his mouth or not, he's always grabbing. And then one time you're going to get a huge grab of marbles, and then that one time you're going to get none. So my logic was always, I'm going to wake up every single day and go to work, whether I have a ton of work or not a lot of work. So if I'm going to go flip homes and build a whole business and infrastructure around that, I might as well build 5 other businesses that can operate under that same infrastructure, because I'm going to work anyway. How the brokerage was born is I was the guy, I was the cheapy guy that refused to pay the signpost installer $25 to put up a real estate sign when I was going to drive to the property 50 times anyway. So I had a post hole digger and 5-7 real estate signs. And when I was flipping only 30 homes a year, I was like, if I'm going to come to work, I might as well be as productive as I can. So I could only flip 30 homes, but I was like, why don't I do 30 homes and try to procure a lead so that I could, because I'm still a real estate professional. And what if I double end it? I pick up the whole buyer's agent commission. So then it got to a point where I was becoming so successful in the flips that I had to focus my attention there. So then I would get a lead, but I didn't stop putting my signs up. So then I would get a lead call, and literally it turned into, if you don't have a briefcase of cash standing in front of that house right now, ready to buy it, I don't know if I'm your guy. And that was obviously very rare. Then as I kept saying that to people, I was like, and I caught a few guys that are like, no, I am cash, I'm an investor, I want to buy it. So that went my way. But I was like, I'm wasting money. So I hired my first agent, and I was like, you get all of the sign calls, but I want 50% of the commission. And then I was like, holy shit, you do 100 homes a year, you're generating a lot of sign calls. That's 100 plus signs in front yards. So I'm like, first year I made like 40 grand off this guy. I'm like, okay. So then I started to understand how that worked. I'm like, well, my transaction coordinator who focused on my transaction coordinating for my flips, maybe I could have her sign up agents when they come in, because I don't want to be doing the paperwork or the recruiting or here's how the printer works or this stuff. So I'm a big believer in giving everybody that works close to me a piece of the action. That's how I incentivize everybody to be their best version of themselves. None of my people make more than, I don't know, 25 grand a year at best, off of salaried or W-2 income. But not one person that I work within 6 feet of makes less than $140,000 a year based on their production. So I incentivize. So I'm like, I go to the girl, I go, hey, will you help me enroll agents? I'll give you, $50 of every agent that you enroll. Now, things are so much more sophisticated and complicated, but I'm trying to give you just a basic example. And then before you knew it, we had 20 agents. And then people started recognizing us as a brokerage to go hang your license at, because there was leads coming in from all the flips. So then we were like 25 agents. I'm like, we got to move out of this. And then before I know it, I'm in another office, and then I had 50 agents, and then I had 80 agents. And now I'm like, everybody's where my bookkeeper is doing the books on my rental portfolio, on my brokerage, on my flips, on my charity, on my consulting business, on my cash buying business, but it's only one guy. You know what I'm saying? So now I can run 6 successful businesses with 6 people. Literally my team is 6, 80 rental properties, 97 real estate agents. We'll do 65 homes this year, flips, 4 kids, nonprofit, 5 employees, 5 team members. I call them employees.
That's amazing. And I love, you can either be in the real estate business, or you can be in the business of real estate. And that's basically what you've done, is you basically started all of these other businesses to encompass all of what real estate has to offer. The flipping, the buying, the agents, now the rentals, which I want to get into for that long term. So you've got the short term, capital, you've got the long-term capital, then you have the business behind it, that the evergreen business behind it, the people that, because there's always going to be real estate transactions, whether they're slow, whether they're high. So that part of the business can flow up and down. But the thing about a lot of flippers is, when you run into a slow period of time, the income goes down significantly. So you've got your other businesses. You can scale up the rentals, you can scale up the coaching, you can scale up the cash buying. So you have these levers that you can pull on inside of your business, which, for the people listening, that it takes time to do that. You have to build a foundation. Your foundation was flipping, and out of necessity, or out of, like you said, being a little cheap with your signs or whatever, you started hiring agents, which kind of created the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
Or you could go the other aspect, like me, which is building the foundation with the rentals to then get comfortable to get into the flipping, to get those injections of cash, and build the business around that. So there's, ultimate goal the same, doing it in different paths, which I really like. But I do want to hone on those, 79, almost 80 rentals. Was your mentality like some people talk about, hey, for every 4 that I buy, I'm going to keep 1 as a rental? Or how did you kind of like get into that, and why did you get into that?
So I got into it to exactly your point, is that I understood that real estate did this, and I wanted to fill these gaps, because what I learned after the recession and all that other stuff is that I am the most productive when I never think about bills. The greatest dynamic I have with my wife is I haven't paid a bill since, I'm going to speculate here, I think 2008. I swipe my card and I get whatever I want. If I want that nice thing, we lightly talk about it and I buy it. And what that's done is that's allowed my mindset to just operate in sheer abundance. I don't have to go, oh, mortgage or this or that. So, but I wanted to make sure that my mind was always in a space of abundance. And how did I do that? I wanted to make sure that all my basic bills were paid. So it started where, now I always like to disclose this. I was lucky in being able to execute my skill of buying property undervalued in Las Vegas at a time, in 2013, 14, 15, I was buying homes undervalued then. So I was buying like single story, 2-car garage, 4-bedroom, 1,400 square foot homes for 107,000 that are worth like 380 today. So some people don't have that opportunity. So I just like to say that out loud. But my game was, I flip a house, I make 20 grand. I flip another house, I make 20 grand. I flip 4 houses, I've got $80,000. One more house, I got 100. So I got to flip 5 houses to save $100,000. And instead of, splurging or hot shotting, I went and bought a rental. Now that was painful, very painful in the very beginning. I just released $100,000 of my safety net in exchange for a net $800 a month, assuming it's an $1,100 a month rent. That was painful. But then I did it again. And now that 800 was doubled, it was 1,600. And then I was like, holy shit, 1,600. I can buy any car I want for the rest of my life and have my car paid for. Because generally speaking, $1,000 car payment's a relatively nice car. And then I'd get back to flipping. But because I was purging, I was always hungry. Grant Cardone speaks real highly of that. And there's some things he says, I think he's a knucklehead, but then there's some things that I think he's really spot on with. And that is definitely one of them. Hoarding cash debilitates your motivation. So I would purge, and then I'd be hungry, and then I'd go buy another one. And then what ended up happening really was, when I got addicted to the rental game, was I hit like $7,000 a month in income. And when I hit $7,000 a month in income, my mortgage was paid, my car was paid, my wife's car was paid, every necessity bill, outside of extreme extracurricular spending, was paid. And I kind of looked at my wife, I was like, babe, we're like technically retired. Now, life wasn't as abundant as I had wanted it to be, at 7,000 a month, but, so I kept going. But now what ended up happening, and this is the big key to this, I didn't have to hoard any money anymore because I had the cash flow to pay my bills. So now it was purge quicker. So it was about getting rid of it, because I was like, I don't need to hold any more money because my bills are all paid. And where that teeter-totter happens is some people have to hoard cash because they have to balance their books and pay their bills over the next 6 months. But as soon as all of your bills are paid by your rentals, dude, the game accelerates extremely fast. And then to answer your other question, I had real keep it simple, stupid rules around how I bought rentals. I said to myself, if it was under $140,000 and it was a shingle roof with siding and a 2-car garage, I bought it. I just bought it no matter what. And then as prices went, and then in that era, it was, if it was a stucco finish with a tile roof and it was under 175, then I bought it, and I bought it no matter what. Now, obviously, as things have gotten more expensive, you kind of sit down and pencil it. But no, it wasn't. It's a general good question, but no, it wasn't real strategic like that. It was like, this is a good one. And you got to think, if I'm executing and buying 100 homes a year, think how many I analyzed, so to make those decisions. So when a good one would come across my desk, man, I was buying houses in Vegas for like $60,000. I have this house I paid $63,000 for, and then when the pandemic hit, the portfolio exploded. And because it exploded, I'd actually owned, you'd think this is crazy, I'd owned most of them cash. When I say most, like 99% of them cash. Like, I don't even know if I had a loan on one, but I'm just going to give myself that. I'd owned 30 cash. And then when it exploded, my portfolio went from, whatever the number was, but it basically doubled or even tripled. And now, but I was only earning this much rent on this value of this portfolio that was this big. And technically that is like financially irresponsible. I was earning like 2.5% on the value of my portfolio, not what I paid, but on the value. And then that's
return on equity.
Yep. And then, yes, return on equity. And that's when I learned that I had to go borrow to be financially in tune. And that's when I really turned it up. And I borrowed very intelligently. My portfolio is only 39% leveraged. Because that's how I lost everything. I'm sorry, I didn't even say that. I lost everything in the recession. All that money I'd built up thinking I was a hotshot, I gave it all back. And then I was broke working at pools but still doing real estate. Anyway, so I understood that debt was something you've got to be very careful with. It's an incredible tool, but be very careful with it. The best thing that's ever happened to me is buying rentals.
So talk to us a little bit about that portfolio now. Like what are those 80, 79 units bringing in for you cash flow wise?
So I call them doors because it just summarizes it easier. But I own condos, I own townhomes, I own single family homes. And then I bought my building that I'm in, which is an 18,000 square foot building. And that accounts for $7,000 a month in net cash flow. And I broke that up into $1,000 increments. So that would be like 7 doors. And then I got a cell phone tower coincidentally with the building that brings in $2,400 a month. So that one's another 2 doors. And then I've got, all this other stuff. But I'd have to, you guys are going to be lucky, and it's because your audience is probably much further than me, but I'll give you an exact number here. I don't, let's have some fun here.
I love it. I love it. Doing the old calculating right here. Cause
well,
it's like got so much stuff going on. You know what I mean? It's like you said, you just don't even think about it. You just keep buying them and they add up.
yeah, I don't even, and now, as you get bigger, you do different things, but I like referencing when I was doing things kind of, but I don't even buy a lot of I have a guy that buys my out of state product, but it's not the math I was doing. I have everything perfectly on spreadsheets that
Okay.
that I calculate here. So let's see. Drum roll. It brings in, it's a net $55,856.97 on a gross. Yeah, I never look at the gross. I don't even know where the gross line's at, but I know it's about 90,000 a month, and gross income is what comes in, and then what stay. Yeah, I can't find it. What comes in or what stays though, I have that real big. You'll see the difference.
Right.
You see the green, so that's
There
why
we go.
that real quick. So 51, 50, 91, or excuse me, that's the top line. 55, 856, 97 is my net income every month from rental properties. And obviously my bills are not even close to that. So then the machine goes faster because I'm flipping homes. I've got the retail business income. I've got all these sources of income. So now I can go buy even more houses.
That's crazy because I remember earlier in our conversation you were talking about, hey, I want to make 700 grand a year. That's my goal for your flipping. You know what I mean? Your goal was like, hey, I'm gonna
That
make
was like
700 grand.
2013. Okay.
Yeah. But now you're basically bringing in that every year with your rentals net.
Yeah. Yeah. My
Like,
goal is to get to 100,000 net a month. And the reason is because I think that's when things get really special. You live on 50, and every month I got 50 to throw somewhere. It'd be like when we hang up or when we get done here, I'd be like, guys, you guys got any business opportunities that I could be a part of with you? Here, I'll throw you 50. I'll throw you 50 this month, next month. And if you guys completely lose it, it's like, I'll just wait 3 weeks and I get another 50. But then now I can go and expand and get my fingers in a bunch of different things. And then we know how that works. 10 will fail, 3 will explode and make up for the 10 that failed. So that's why I think life gets real fun at 100,000 a month. That's my goal right now, is trying to get to 100 grand.
Well, that's what the abundance mindset will do for you. And you're not too worried about losing the money, but you're willing to take the risk to gain the money and opportunity down the road. And, I think that speaks volumes. But let's talk a little bit about your goals. Where are you taking your business currently? Your flipping business, your brokerage business, your rentals. What kind of other businesses do you have on the horizon that you're kind of trying to build and grow?
So where my business is going. So right now I'm trying to get to 150 agents. We've calculated that's where the brokerage business really, really, really takes off. It's a crazy business. It's a numbers business. This is hypothetical numbers because I don't want to disclose too much, but you could break even at 80 agents, and then at 105, you're making like 600 grand a year net. Like it's a crazy business because those first 80 cover all your costs, and that little bump is like explosive. None of those numbers are accurate, but that's the model with the brokerage. So we're really trying to get us from this 97, which we were shooting for 100, we're just a little bit shy, to 150. So that really, I don't look at anything else. I don't look about how much money we're going to make. I know what that will look like, but I just say, how do I add value to agents? How do I improve their mindsets, improve their ability to go and produce for themselves and their families and accomplish their goals? And my hope is in exchange, they come and hang their license at Galindo Group Real Estate, and we can get to 150 agents. That's the brokerage side. As far as all of my businesses, though, as far as the flipping, the brokerage, the nonprofit, the consulting business, the cash buying business, all the other businesses, my honest goal is to get incredibly powerful people to run them and just use me as a consultant. Hey, Josh, ran into this big problem. What do you think here? Not, hey, the contractor didn't show up. will you call them? You know, like, so I actually am trying to get further away from my businesses, and have them still be profitable. That's my goal. And so that I get more time back. And then while they're profitable and I have time, that's where things get special. You know, because you could be crushing it, but have no time. Well, how do you go grow? You got to have time and a brain capacity and to grow, but you also need money to grow. So I'm trying to accomplish the best of both worlds. So I'm trying to, and I have great people in their place, but that was literally, you asked what my goal is for this year. I have put in a special person that's talented and intelligent in charge of all of my businesses, and they are all absolutely crushing it. And then once that happens, now I'll have time and money to take me and my close people that are good to me to the next atmosphere. Now, here's the next thing that I just want to share, because I thought this was really special. One of the best mentors I've ever had, very wealthy gentleman, sat me down in the pandemic and said, "Hey, Josh, you know, I got hit with this health issue. It's not looking good. And here's my net worth." And I'm like, holy shit. Like, this guy's never disclosed that to me. He's always been kind of private, but he's always been good to me and taught me a lot of valuable things on my journey. And he goes, "Here's the one piece of advice that I can give you." This was the last time I talked to him when he was perfectly healthy, or the effects of his health weren't showing. He goes, pick a time in your life, an age in your life, a net cash flow, or a net worth. And when you hit it, stop. Think about that, because this extremely wealthy guy was sitting in front of me, and he had all the money in the world, all the money that I could ever dream of, and he didn't have his health. So then I started doing the math on myself. I'm like, I'm 38 years old. If I double my age, it gets me to, I think it's 74, 72 or 74. And that's assuming I'm healthy. What does health to me look like? Health looks like I can go ride the bike with my boy Beckham. I can kick the ball with my grandkids, and I could be intimate with my wife, and my brain is there. So now at this point in my life, I only have 50% left. So what are my goals? My goals are to generate as much cash as I can in the next few years, and then stay stimulated with work and enjoy life, help other people, but really start enjoying the fruits of my labor, because I've been grinding since I was 15.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of that is huge, and I absolutely love that last little piece of advice right there. I think that really hit home with me as you were going through. I'm like, I know I'm going to be going back and re-listening to that part over and over and over again, and write out mine as I'm looking at that, because I think sometimes we get caught up in the grind and caught up in chasing more and more and more and more, and sometimes forget what the whole point of us doing this for, and it
Right.
ends up just being a giant ego play is what it is, what most of the time it ends up being. And then you can never get that time back once you realize that that's all you were doing the entire time. So I really love where this conversation has gone with all of this. And I really want to ask, with putting all of that you just did out into the universe, what is like the number one or two obstacle that you see yourself facing to accomplish any one of those goals?
If I had to identify an obstacle, actually, great question. I don't predict. I try not to predict the future, look for problems that I need to be conscious of, because they can be debilitating. So to me, I kind of just a guy that runs out in the middle of the street and hopes I don't get hit. But if I get hit, hopefully I can get back up and make it to the other side. Kind of mindset. Like, I'll make the mistakes, and when I see the problem, then I'll fix it at that time. But I don't like to predict problems, because most of the time they never even come to fruition. I spent so much time predicting them and predicting a solution for a hypothetical. And then of the 10 problems that I did that with, 2 happened and 8 didn't, and it delayed me 6 months. So in all reality, honestly, the only problem that I see, and I don't even think it's a problem, because I'm learning that the journey is more valuable than the destination. And it sounds cheesy, but I swear to you, the wealthier you get and the more you could do whatever you want, because you got all the resources in the world to do it, it becomes more about the journey. I promise. But it's time. It's just time. That's my only obstacle. I have the tools. I have the understanding on how to do it. I know what my machines are all capable of spitting out. And if they all can do that, all my businesses, then I know how to deploy that capital to put me in a position to accomplish those goals. So I've got all the tools and gas and oil and tires and windshield wipers and everything and seatbelts that I need to get my car to where it's going. Now it's just getting in the car and driving it, which I'm already doing. So if you say, if I had to identify an obstacle, it's time. I've got all the pieces to my puzzle. It's just time. Now I just got to be patient with it. And even it's 18 months. My plan's 18 months. I have to buy 4.44 rentals that generate about $700 in net cash flow per month for the next 18 months. And that gets me to 100,000.
That's incredible. I know every time we ask that question, everyone normally comes up with some specific pinpoint business issue that they're trying to get over. But I think you've nailed it on the head right there, because I think everyone's fundamental problem is time, not having enough time to do what they want. And sometimes people get overabsorbed and don't focus on what matters in life as much as they should. But speaking about time though, a lot of what that entails is giving back, feeling good about yourself.
Fulfillment.
Yeah. So tell us about this charity that you're working on and some of the things you're doing to kind of give back to the community.
So fulfillment for me is my driver at this junction in my career. My retail brokerage makes the least amount of money, but I get the most fulfillment from it. Like, I love coming in and being around human beings. So there's two things that we're doing. Is we're building this I Am Josh Galindo brand, which is the name on all the social media outlets. And I just want to share all of this good stuff that, like, we've just talked about now in small, quick clips that people can consume, and hopefully just reprogram mindset for them to help them get to where they want to go. And then so that's the I Am Josh Galindo brand. And that's just giving back. Like, we don't have any intentions of charging for anything at the moment. There might be a time where we have to charge to free up time and create more resources. But for now, I just want people to hear how I got here. And if they think it's cool, great. And then the second thing is our charity, which is called Galindo Gives. It's something I like to talk about because it's kind of an unknown thing. Is my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2021. In January 2021, she had to go through 16 rounds of chemo, 25 rounds of radiation, and we have little kids, so we had to sit down and talk to each other and go, hey, you're going to lose your hair. What does that look like? And we were like, you know what? Being the insanely optimistic people that we are, actually, when I think about it, or me at least delusionally optimistic, I was like, fuck that. You're not going to lose your hair. I guarantee you there's something out there that can prevent that. And we'll go figure it out, honey. Because of course she was looking for me for strength. I was like, I'll fucking find it. We'll find it. And we found these things called cold capping. And every single doctor told us that it doesn't work. And what cold capping is it's this freezing cold ice pack that goes on your head at minus 40 degrees that has to sit on your head for 10 hours during the day that you're getting the chemo treatment. And it has to be swapped every 25 minutes so that it stays fresh and cold. And what the concept behind it is that chemo contaminated blood goes through your body, right? It's always circulating. And then once it gets to that freezing cold temperature, it reverses course and goes back down. So that chemo never actually touches any of her hair follicles. Now, my wife was able to save 95% of her hair. So every day while she had breast cancer, she was able to wake up, look at her children. They had no clue. So she didn't have to carry the burden of feeling like, my kids think their mother's going to die every day. That's taxing. She got to look in the mirror and be beautiful. Now, when you see health, you manifest more health. You're not walking around with a beanie or a wig or, a turnip or whatever those are that she was able to walk through our grocery store and not one person knew what she was going through. So while you have all the stress of healing, you didn't have to deal with any of the noise from the outside world. Now, that cold capping, now you guys understand it, and hopefully all your listeners do. It's expensive. It's like $500 a month. Now you got to think, if some of these patients have a $500 car payment and they're on a fixed income, it's either their car or their hair. Well, if they lose their car, then they lose their job, then they lose their insurance. And that's basically a death wish. So unfortunately, some of these women or men, I don't care, I have no hair, but some of these men, they, my man, they have to choose their car, obviously, and now they get to go bald. So what we've offered is we raise money on the Galindo Gives initiative, raises money, and then we sponsor women that need it, not just because of that don't have the financial means to pay for it themselves. So they get to go through cancer without losing their hair. That's Galindo Gives.
Yeah. I love that you shared the story. I really was interested in the charity, and I think if you're going to give back in any sort of way, it's got to really touch you from the heart, man. And what better than experiencing that with your family and with your wife and everything else. And you have the ability to give back and affect people in what is one of, I think, the hardest things that a family's going to have to go through, and I think that's amazing. So I'm really glad that we asked that question, James.
Yeah, man, great question. Think about what I had to process when I got hit with that. You have to really go through the real life scenarios. I got 4 little kids. Let's say she doesn't make it. What does every birthday look like? We got to acknowledge mom. What does every Christmas look like? What do my ambitions look like? What does the rest of my life? There were some real serious questions that I had to process. What does this look like? And so it was when what was funny is when you were saying each time you get uncomfortable and get pushed out of your old you realize how superhuman you are. I mean, that wasn't exactly what you said, but that was what you said. Dude, I learned how fucking tough I could be. And it was in that year. And now I get to carry that amazing toughness or understanding of myself for the rest of my life in exchange for 1 year and one difficult time.
So how's your wife doing now? Top
10, man. She's amazing. She's perfect, whole and complete. She's got killer. Probably shouldn't say that. She's got excellent health. She's amazing. She's amazing, and she's an inspiration to so many women in Vegas and around the United States. But absolutely perfect. I'm living the greatest life ever, and I'm so grateful for it.
That's awesome.
Thank you for asking.
Yes.
Of course. Well, I think now it's time for a segue into the next part of the show that James and I like to call the Big Four. James, take it away.
Absolutely. Okay, Josh. So this one's easy. Give us something that you do on a daily basis that kind of feels like a cheat code for your financial independence path or for your finances generally.
The gym every single day. Sounds cheesy, but every single day. It doesn't mean go in the gym and kill yourself every single day. It just means get up and go to the gym. Why? Because when you're working out and you got your headphones on, really it's meditating. And that's what I actually learned recently. I learned that probably a year ago. I didn't realize, but every day I was going to the gym, I was meditating. And what was that allowing me to do? It was obviously the results are that hopefully I look decent and I have good health. But I was able to work on my business all by myself with just me and my thoughts. And then I'm able to execute out instruction and direction and compile to-do lists. And, it was meditation that I was able to spend an hour and a half every day of my life alone with my thoughts, with one focus and building my business. So to me, 1,000,000% go to the gym.
Love it.
Boom. Love it. First time anyone's mentioned the gym, I'm fairly positive. And, the 70 episodes that we're at. All right, we call this next one resources. So are there any particular books, podcasts, influential people that our listeners would benefit from knowing about that have affected or really shaped your financial independence journey, your wealth building journey that really hit home for you?
The greatest, remember, I'm a high school dropout, didn't go to college. I think I'm going to stop saying high school dropout. I didn't finish high school. No high school, No college. Okay. So I'm as raw and self-taught as it gets. The first book that I love, I think everybody on the planet should read it, is Who Moved My Cheese? You guys were mentioning pivoting earlier. You want to talk about having an understanding of how to pivot. Very simple read. I think it's like 98 pages, like a 14 font. You could blow it out in an hour. Who Moved My Cheese? I love that book. I swear by it. But let me tell you how I got educated on a lot of what I do. I wake up every single morning, literally every morning. This is part of my routine. Is I go to cnbc.com, and I get my national business news, and I read as many articles as I can. I'm educating myself every single day. I know everything that's going on. I'm aware of, most of it's financial, but there are some, political things in there. But I love watching the financial part of it. And I get to learn how these big players are making moves and making decisions. So CNBC, I read every single morning. LVRJ, which is a Las Vegas Review Journal, that's local news. I read that every single day. And then I go to msn.com, which is social news, and I read that. What it allows me to do, one, is it makes me a human being of value. So if I'm sitting here just talking shop with you at, let's say they were waiting for a table at a restaurant, we're leaning on the wall. If you start talking about, I don't know, something real big business wise, I can now relate, and you're like, wow, this guy's of value. If you start talking about Jennifer Lopez, well, thank goodness I read MSNBC or MSN, today, and I got my social news. I could talk shop. It keeps me sharp on all levels. And then obviously I'm learning. So I'm a person of value to anybody I run into at any time, because I'm basically covering all of the social things that can be talked about, business, social, local, whatever it is. But I'm a huge believer that you don't have to read a million books. You don't have to, I learned the whole political system watching CNN and MSNBC and Fox. Literally, when I watch, no matter what side you're on, I'll bounce around all the networks just to make sure I'm getting it all right, So, dude, this day and age, there's no excuse to be stupid, because every single, stupid or uneducated, every single thing that you want an answer to is on Google. And that's what I do. I'm a research freak. So no, there's not one book there, but if you could Google it, if you need inspiration, how do I get inspired? Use Google. It'll answer anything.
Love that. Yeah, we'll link to that book in our show notes. And I agree. I mean, there's just too much information out there readily available to not at least be aware of it. I mean, you don't have to be an expert in any of this stuff, but to at least be able to kind of connect all the points that are being fed to you on a daily basis. The information's out there. For this next one, Josh, this is your future you. Where's Josh going to be in 5 years? Like, what does your business look like? What does your personal life look like? Describe what you 5 years in the future really looks like from your perspective.
Oh man, 5 years from now, what will I look like? I hope that I have 5 years. I mean, I'm 38. So I hope I've got 150,000 a month and triple net income coming in every single month. And I'm just touching tons and tons of lives and impacting human beings all across the United States. And this is almost a trick question, because I feel like I'm living my dream at the moment. So I haven't had time to like rebuild a new dream. And that my children are learning and observing and understanding that being a Galindo is something special. I'll probably slow down when they realize that the fact that they're a Galindo means something. And then at that point, they'll realize that they've got to continue to build on it, so I don't want to shut that down before they realize, because then they'll be like, I didn't know that I was even supposed to build on this thing, because I didn't know it was anything special. I don't want to be known as just the dad that was rich. I want to be known for the dad that did special things in the community, that was known, and that we have a standard to uphold, and that's this. And so they got to get a little older for that. But I hope that I'm healthy. I don't hope. I will be healthy. I will be wealthy. I will be touching an unbelievable amount of people with education and knowledge and mentorship. And I will be happily married to my amazing wife, Crystal. And all of my kids will be healthy and loving me as much as they do today. I have everything that I want financially. I got a Lamborghini. I got I got a cool G-Wagon. I got vacation homes. I've got, I have watches. You guys asked a great question there. It stimulated my mind. I have to sit down and rebuild my dream because I'm living it, So
Well, we find every time we ask that, people have, some sort of idea if they haven't thought through it specifically of where they want to be. And it's interesting because you always get a different answer. People are either taking it business, the business route, or more motivated to talk about the personal route. But it really elicits an awesome response from people once they sit down and really think about it.
Sure. Great question. You guys thought those out well. They're good questions.
Man, well, Josh, we appreciate this so much. For all the listeners out there that are motivated, inspired, educated by you, want to reach out, see what you're doing. Where's the best place for them to reach out to you and follow what you're doing?
So, like I said, I'm on all social handles, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and the username is @IamJoshGalindo. And Galindo's Galindo. @IamJoshGalindo. If you get lost there, just type in Galindo Vegas, and I promise you'll find me. But yeah, go follow my social media journey. It's kind of it's this in seconds. So
love it. Well, that's going to be down in the show notes. As you guys know, we give you guys this amazing free information every single week when we drop this podcast, but it's not really free. All we ask that you do is leave us a review. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Drop a comment down below. Send James and I a message, man. All we're doing is we're doing this for you guys. So send us a DM. Let us know we're doing great, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
See you guys.